It's time to mind your business with me, Jamillah Lodge. Tune in to find out how to mind your business with BEDC, special guest entrepreneurs, industry experts, and more. Brought to you by BEDC. Bermuda Business starts here. So welcome to Mind Your Business. I am your host, Jamillah Lodge, and today I have with me Adam Scott, who is the founder and CEO of BermudAir.
Well said.
I got it right. So thankful that you are here with us today. But before we get started, let's talk a little bit about you and how did you even get into the whole owning an airline thing. So share with us a little bit about your background.
So background, Canadian, educated in the UK, got into aviation just because I wanted to find a better way of doing things. I found that the other airlines, it was always a race to the bottom, and there was just a more civil way of doing it. Mm-hmm. Just having, cabin crew that smile at their passengers rather than, just moving you around like an old sea boot, So yeah. It was a totally different take on what we wanted to achieve. And so I worked on another project out of the UK. Mm-hmm. But in my travels, I traveled back and forth a lot between London and New York. Okay. And one of my best friends was Bermudian. And so I got to spend a lot of time here, fell in love with the place, quickly became my favorite place on earth. Yay. And so I saw an opportunity here. So we pivoted to Bermuda and launched BermudAir.
I love that. So you were planning to launch it somewhere else before you fell in love with
Correct.
Bermuda. Okay, yep. Well, lucky us. So talk a little bit about how you came to create, I guess, the culture that is BermudAir, mm-hmm. and what experiences led you to building the airline the way it is, the way we know it today.
I think culture is really the most important thing. I mean, the thing that really makes BermudAir different from anything else is it's the people. Mm-hmm. And when we came here, we wanted to be very inclusive. We wanted to be really Bermudian. I didn't want to come around and show up with short shorts and high knee socks and fake it. Right. I wanted it to be really proper Bermudian, and so we brought on board a fantastic group of individuals who have been there and done it before, in airlines, and then we worked to embrace as many local talent as possible, mm-hmm. to really make it as Bermudian as possible. And over time, we're seeing that we're becoming more and more Bermudian, mm-hmm. with every passing week and month, which is fantastic. And I think the fact that we've been able to get people excited about what we're doing, and there's a lot of aviation lovers on this island too. Mm-hmm. I think it's just virtue of the fact that you're an island, we're an island here, and people need to fly.
You gotta fly.
So it's one of those industries where everybody has an opinion, mm-hmm. and it's not that difficult to make it better than what the other guys offer. And so when we put the Bermudian hospitality on show, mm-hmm. And then we have a great team that's very cohesive. We have a very flat structure, okay. And I think that everybody feels like they're a part of something, and they can speak to us, and we've got a great bond, I think, which mm-hmm. is awesome.
So how did you kind of establish and nurture that bond? Because so you mentioned you have a flat structure. So what's it like when I go into my orientation meeting? Like, what are you telling your staff and your employees to kind of nurture that type of bond that you're speaking to?
I think it's very apparent when somebody walks in the office whether or not they want to be part of what we're doing, okay. or if they're just there looking for a role.
Right.
We're not transactional. I think what makes BermudAir special is when you walk into the office, it's a warm environment, mm-hmm. and so everybody talks very freely with each other. I think that everybody feels almost an immediate part of the family, mm-hmm. and I always talk about the family because we have our BermudAir family, and then we have the family of Bermuda,
right?
And all of our frequent flyers and whatnot. So I think that it's just it's one of those things where people walk in. They can speak to me, they can speak to whoever it might be, but we try and include everybody and get people to give live feedback and and certainly it's a very inclusive environment.
I love that. I mean, I think it definitely makes a difference, right? If you feel like you're part of something, you take ownership of that, then you're
Absolutely.
willing to give your best. You're not just a butt in a seat for,
Absolutely.
Um,
We don't have any offices. I mean, we have our office, but we don't have any cubicles. It's an open concept.
Okay.
And so I think that whole openness and getting people to move between, our place in Hamilton and at the airport, but just being able to have an open door policy is really critical to have that, to nurture that environment.
Right. So you talk about the airline being Bermudian. Talk a little bit about the things that make it so. I understand the people, and we're welcoming people. But what are some of the other things that you have done on purpose to ensure that that kind of Bermudianness comes through?
Sure. I think, the first thing that people see is the aircraft. They see, the colors of our livery. It's the fauna, and it represents, our view of Bermuda. We see the flag on the side of the aircraft. I mean, every time I see that, it feels really special. I mean, we're the only airline that's flying with a Bermudian flag on the side of it, and so it's carrying the flag of Bermuda wherever we go. It's a giant flying billboard
Yeah,
for Bermuda,
for
which is
sure.
exciting. And I think it's little things that we do. It's using the colors in the aircraft, the lighting, so that you're flying to Bermuda, you get the pink as if you're coming into Hamilton, you get the blue when you're leaving, and so it's just those subtle things. But then it's also our partners in terms of our catering, our onboard product. We've tried to source as much as possible from Bermuda so that people get a real taste. And it's a lot of people when they're first time flying to Bermuda. To have a dark and stormy, a lot of people are like, "What's that?"
What's
Well,
that? Yeah.
here we go. And it's fantastic, and it's something that resonates with people. And I think, but it honestly, it really comes down to the people. It's people are smiling, people are happy. It's a community, and I think even the fact that we have a 2x2 seating configuration in our aircraft, it lends itself to that sort of community feel. And so it's awesome when I get on a plane and I recognize a lot of people, but I can see people recognizing each other.
Yeah.
And it's there was always that in other airlines as I came to Bermuda, because Bermuda is such a special place. But I think that is sort of accentuated really well with BermudAir. So it's great.
What I particularly appreciate, because we're in the small business, right, is that you have utilized some of the small businesses that we support as well on your flights, like Amani's cookies, and to me that attention to detail is really special, because for me it shows that you're walking the walk. You're not
Yep.
just saying, "Oh yeah, it's Bermudian," or whatever the case may be. You're creating opportunities for these smaller vendors or smaller businesses to get that international exposure, right? Because you're
Absolutely.
flying out of Bermuda, and if I have one of those cookies, I'm like, well, how do I get another one of those? And
Absolutely.
so that actually creates opportunity for sales and increased revenue and all of that. And I really do appreciate that, especially as the BEDC. So thank you for that.
Pleasure. Our pleasure.
So what have been, like, in your first year of operation, what have been some of like your biggest milestones where you were like, okay, yeah, we're doing this right?
I think, when we brought together the team, we were able to do things in real record time. And I know that it's a first for Bermuda, but if you think about aviation in general and you think about launching an airline, the complexities that are involved with it from a regulatory perspective, from a financial perspective, there's so much that you have to do. And we did all of that in record time. And so working with the BCA to get our certificate in place, working with all of our partners to make sure that it all came together in really record time was awesome and fantastic, and I think that's something that everybody on the team can really be proud of. And so I think now the next things that we're really working on, we're really pushing. We launched very quickly. We launched to say, yeah, we can do this.
Yeah.
We focused very much on the operational side of things. Then it's a focus on the commercial side of things. How do you get bums on seats, and how do you really start selling Bermuda as a destination?
Right.
And I think that I feel very passionate about Bermuda as a year-round destination. I think that I'm originally from Toronto. It's better here on a wet Tuesday in January than it is in Toronto going through a blizzard.
Right,
Trust me.
right.
And so I think it's important for us to really be able to sell that and to show that actually it's easy. You can get to Bermuda with great ease, and in
Yeah.
fact, part of the journey is actually flying with us because we do it differently. And so as soon as you get on the aircraft, you think, okay, actually I'm in Bermuda already,
Right.
and you're enjoying it. Whereas, historically when you travel with another carrier, that's like it's a means to an end to get somewhere. And so we wanted to make sure that actually, if you get on a flight at Westchester at 6 p.m., you're already in Bermuda the minute you get on the plane, and then you've got the weekends before you have to go home to the cold
Yeah.
sometimes. So I think that's really really important for us. And so BermudAir holidays, basically taking flights and hotels together. Now we've just launched with golf programs as well.
Okay.
We'll be looking to extend that out to other activities on the island, and so that is all about getting people here year round. And I think it's really about trickle down. And what I mean by that is, if we can get more people that wouldn't have otherwise flown here, in January or in November or whenever it might be, we've got more people coming to the island, spending in restaurants, using taxis, using the buses, doing all of these great things that actually help everybody on the island. It helps us. It makes it work. But it's really about helping the island and making the island hopefully that much more of a year-round destination, at least a year-round possibility for people.
Right. So you mentioned that you were able to kind of get started
Yes.
pretty quickly. And I can say that that is not always the experience for a lot of other entrepreneurial endeavors, bureaucracy, red tape, all of that. So for you, what was maybe one of the biggest challenges that you had to overcome to get this airline started as quickly as you did?
I think really the biggest challenge in terms of the launch itself
Yeah.
is just bringing every bit of it together.
Okay.
But very frankly, the team has been exceptional. I mean, we have the greatest project manager known to mankind on
Okay.
our team. We've got the greatest. Everybody's just been so focused and keen to get on with it and to make it happen. And so I think it's really just about. It's not so much being a challenge. Like, I see the challenge as an opportunity.
Right.
If there's a challenge, then I wanna beat it through, and I want to get to the end result. And I think we've been really lucky because the rest of the team sees it like that. And
Okay.
I think when you go into some organizations, you see this sort of transactional thing. People are there because it's a job. I think everybody in Bermuda genuinely wants to see this thrive and grow, and so our team, everybody in the organization from top to bottom, and left to right, are just very, very entrepreneurial, and that's been something that I'm just so pleased about.
I think it's interesting because teams can make or break you, right?
Absolutely.
And I feel like, what is the secret sauce to finding all these fabulous people that are helping to build this airline? How are you finding them? How do you source that talent?
I think initially it's all about, it's very easy to have a good conversation with somebody to understand, if they have the same kind of way of thinking, if they, you can sense, when somebody really wants something, or whether they're just there for a job, basically.
Yeah.
And I think that our team has become very adept at actually, sourcing that talent and sourcing those individuals. We have guys and gals that are in our office. They literally walked up and knocked on our door and said, "Hey, I want a job." And that's incredible to me. That speaks volumes about a person. One of our guys, he flew into the airport, saw the BermudAir sign there, and he said, "Well, what's this all about? I want to be involved." And he literally came up, knocked on the door, and said, "I want a job." And I sat down with him and I said, "Okay, well, what can you do? How can we make this work? What's it going to take?" And he was just like, "I just want to be part of this." And so we've had that in so many instances. We've had people, pick up a business card or something and just walk in and say, "Okay, how do I become a part of this?"
Right, right.
And so I think we've been very lucky to get that. A lot of it has also just it's been real luck. It's just been timing, the right person at the right
Really?
place. Yeah, it's been
You're not gonna take no credit for it.
it's I think it's a really good, it's a good welcoming environment for people. For
So,
sure.
okay, I have two names here that are part of your leadership team. So,
Yep.
George Henderson and Ryan Gilman.
Yep.
How have they been instrumental in the success of BermudAir?
Well, I may have mentioned the world's greatest project manager.
Yes, you did.
That is George Henderson. I've worked with George for a number of years, but he is, he is on it, and he just he's all about execution, and he's all about doing things that. Again, other people would say, you're never going to launch an airline in 8 months. You're never going to do this. You're never going to get TSA pre-approval. You're never going to launch. When I said we want to do a package where we can sell flights and hotels at the same time, everybody said, no, it's going to take months to do that. I think we did it in 3 weeks.
See?
I said, look, let's just try and see what happens if we can offer a program where people can fly as much as they like.
Yeah.
And so we launched that. I think it was the beginning of September. There's a lot of technical work that needs to go on behind the scenes to make that possible, right? Systems wise, we did that in 2 weeks. And it's just, people
So
are
nobody's
driven by it.
sleeping. That's what I'm hearing you say.
People are sleeping, but I think people are just really motivated. So George has been fantastic. Ryan is our CFO. Ryan joined us earlier this year. He's got a lot of airline experience. He was previously with Delta and Northwest.
Okay.
So he looks at things, from a real strategic perspective, and he's helped us, direct where we want to fly to, how we want to make this work in the long run, and so but again, it's really motivated people who, we can go out and we can just talk things through and just throw things out there and ideate, I think, is the word that people use, right?
Yeah.
And so I
And
think as a team,
implement, because you're ideating,
Ideate
but
and
then you're
implement.
actually making it happen, which can sometimes, that's the hardest part, right?
yeah, absolutely.
So now you have these key cities. How do you decide where you're going to go and where you're going to fly to?
So I guess there's two things. The first thing is really the numbers. So you can look at what do the numbers tell you. You can look at all the cities on the eastern seaboard of the U.S. and Canada, and you can say, okay, how many passengers historically have traveled from A to B, and often, obviously, for Bermuda, most of those people travel A to B, but they travel via C. And so what we look at is where are the biggest markets where we could actually do direct. And so our whole model right now is we fly to 7 destinations. There'll be some improvements to that in the near future.
Okay.
But if you look at our network now, we fly to 7 destinations. Only 2 of them do we compete head to head. So we compete in
Okay.
Toronto and Boston. But our other 5 markets are more or less our own markets, and those markets have been chosen because there's a business need, there's a human need, there's a to fly to Baltimore, to and from Baltimore, for
Yeah.
example. There's a good demand between Westchester and Bermuda. There's Halifax. That just goes without saying. That's just been one of our most successful routes, and I think we can look at those point to points, and we're now bringing a lot more people in from Halifax. We're bringing people in from Baltimore that wouldn't have otherwise come here because it's too much of a hassle to
Right,
get to
to
Bermuda
try to,
previously.
yeah.
And so I think it's the numbers, and then I think also working with our partners on the island, working with industry here, working with the reinsurance companies to say, where would they otherwise like to go? What makes most sense for them? Not even just now, but in the future. And so I think as we encourage that conversation to look at proactively what are opportunities in the future.
Okay. So now the size of the aircraft. Let's talk about that. So I have am I saying it right? Embraer E175.
Correct.
Yes. Okay. Did you pick that airline for a reason? Are you looking at getting larger airlines? Like, talk to me about what that strategy is like.
The strategy with the aircraft is, and I've always believed this before BermudAir, is that you have to have the right sized aircraft for the right markets.
Yes.
The issue for Bermuda, a place like Bermuda, is the legacy carriers, they fly bigger aircraft with 180 seats. They fly them in the summer. But in the winter, when you're not bringing in the tourist traffic, you can't possibly fill a 180 seat aircraft, in November or in January or February, whenever it might be. And so my view has always been, if you have the right sized aircraft, then you can have the right sized network, and then you can have the right size frequencies, so you can be relevant for your market. So we are going to get slightly larger aircraft, longer aircraft within the same family, the Embraers, but it's all about having the right size aircraft for the market, and so I think that is what sets us apart, because we have all of the requisite equipment to fly transoceanic to service Bermuda. And therefore, with that right-sized aircraft, we can, service the island year-round. And we're committed. All of our routes we fly year-round.
Okay.
And so we may lower, the number of frequencies in the down season or the off season, but certainly we want to make sure that we're providing that connectivity. So, we're committed to Bermuda. We're committed to ensuring that people do have that flexibility and that choice. I can't speak on behalf of the other airlines, but as BermudAir, I can say we're committed to the island and making sure that we provide that year round.
And we thank you for that. That's the
The
worst
team
thing.
appreciates it.
Like, when you have those flights and then they stop and you have family or relatives in those cities and you're like, now I got to go to 2 different places before I get to you, and you're literally right across the water.
Yep.
So we appreciate that kind of consistency. So are there any exciting updates that we could look forward to?
There are, but I
You
can't
can't tell me?
say right now. But over the course of the
Will
next
you come
couple
back
of weeks,
at them and tell
sure,
us? Okay.
sure.
All right. So without sharing too much, well, let me ask you this, and I don't know, you wrap me on my hand if I'm speaking out of turn. So we had a couple of guests visiting from Canada, and it was their first time to Bermuda, and they were like, "Oh, I love it." They were from Waterloo.
Okay.
And she was like, before I came, I thought you guys were in the Caribbean. And I was like, no, we're like a bit removed. And so her question to me was, are there any straight flights to the Caribbean? And I was like, no. So do you see that as an opportunity for BermudAir?
I see it as an opportunity in the future with the right partners.
Okay.
The issue that you have with, it's very difficult to sustain a service between one small place and another small place.
That's true. Yeah.
And so the opportunity with the Caribbean is, working with a partner where you could fly to one place and then you could have options to fly a lot of other places. And so, there is a distinct possibility in the future.
Okay.
I think right now the focus is, the Northeast and the eastern seaboard of the U.S. and Canada. But longer term, I do see that, we're also doing charters. So we've already done several charters down to the Caribbean. And so if there are opportunities, if there's somebody on the island that wants to, arrange a trip down to, Antigua, for example,
Right.
We can facilitate that. The team can do that.
Oh, that's awesome. That's a nice alternative.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So, it requires it requires a certain number of people that want to do it. But of course, we have that flexibility, and we're nimble enough that we can accommodate things like that.
So I'm going to go back to the start
Sure.
about you a little bit and this whole entrepreneurial owning of an airline thing. So was this did you always picture yourself in this position here? What was that like? Like, were you always destined, you think, to become an entrepreneur? Was that always kind of the journey that you thought you would take?
Yeah, I would say I was always destined to be an entrepreneur. My parents, my family are very entrepreneurial
Okay.
in Canada, and they emigrated from the UK to Canada with literally 100 pounds and a mattress. That was like what they moved over with, and so they created their own businesses, and I created my own businesses when I was very young.
Okay.
But so I always had that in me, but I wanted to learn the ropes initially in a corporate environment, and then figure out where I would go from there. But I wouldn't say that it wasn't always about an airline. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. Like, how did that happen?
It was just, and it's kind of the Bermuda story, because I traveled so much. I was lucky enough that one of the things, one of my passions was always to travel wherever I could. And so, I would earn some money and then I would spend it all traveling. And
Smart
so
man.
it was a great thing. And I've been fortunate enough to see over 100 countries. But then one day I got on a BA flight to Bermuda, and I thought, wow, this is pretty special. And then I started coming more and more and more, and then that was it. That you guys kind of had me at hello at that point.
Okay.
So now you're stuck with me. But then
We'll take
part of that was I still want to be able to move around and see friends and family,
Yeah.
and I'm sure that's something that most people here want to be able to do as well. So it was fortuitous, let's say.
It was meant to happen.
It
That's
was
what it
meant to
was.
happen.
And we're grateful to you for it. So as we like come to the end of the conversation here, what are some key things that you want people to recognize is different about Bermuda Air?
I think that the most important thing is that it goes back to one of your first questions, which was, how are you Bermudian, or how is
Yeah.
Bermuda more Bermudian? And I would emphasize this as much as I can. BermudAir is all about Bermuda.
Right.
We're based here. Our planes sleep here. Our staff sleep here. They live here. Our pilots, came to Bermuda, moved their families here. Their salaries, they spend it in Bermuda. So everything, we source as much as from Bermuda, and so there's so much trickle down to the island that the company brings in and provides, and obviously, it's very much a two-way street. It's a mutual, symbiotic relationship that we have, and so I think that's really important, because if you think about another carrier that comes in, they fly in, they drop off their passengers, they pick up some passengers and
And
go
go.
home. And so we've been able to do great things here. We've been able to, we've been able to be nimble enough to serve, needs of the island that I think a lot of the other, carriers can't or wouldn't. And so I think it's really important that, everybody understands as much as possible that we are genuinely committed to the island. And so, to the extent that people choose to fly us, choose to experience it, choose to see, what it's like getting on an aircraft with Bermudian staff,
Yeah.
and a Bermudian flavor, I think people feel really, proud of that. And that would be, if I could have one goal, in all of this, it would be that, Bermudians are proud of what we've accomplished as a team, and that we're flying the flag for Bermuda.
So speaking of what Bermudians think, what has the feedback been?
I think the feedback has been awesome. I mean, we had everybody knows we had some problems in April last year. It was, unbelievable. We had two aircraft go technical at the same time.
Oh no.
But I think, we learned a lot from that. So that the very next thing that we have coming in the spring is our third aircraft, which will be a standby, a spare aircraft that literally, something goes wrong with one of our aircraft, you just wheel that one out, and there you go. So we'll have a 50%, resiliency rate, effectively, or contingency rate. So we will immediately become, the most reliable carrier. And we've moved, heaven and earth to improve those over the course of the last few months, and we're out there performing exceptionally well. But I think that so there was some grumblings
Yeah,
about that.
yeah.
But I think it's one of those things. It's like we're a startup. We have a very small team. So if something goes wrong, a flight gets canceled because of a technical issue. I think it's really important for people to appreciate, that we have a staff of 4 or 5 people that are taking calls.
Right.
And so if a flight gets canceled, and there's 60 people on this side and 60 people on that side affected, it's 120 people trying to call the call center at the same time.
Right.
But our call center staff are here in Bermuda, so they're answering the phone. And honestly, the feedback that we get on the call center is 99% positive.
Yeah.
But then there's 1% that just, loses it because they can't get through to somebody immediately, which I just think is really unfair, because our call center staff are awesome. They're so dedicated to it. And we do things like we will repatriate passengers using other airlines, Sometimes it can take a few minutes to get through.
Yeah.
But but we'll sort out hotels. We'll sort out other flights, and we'll do as best as we can. But we are a startup. We don't have all of the infrastructure that
Right,
others
that
have.
the larger airlines
But
do.
I've
Yeah.
been on a phone call. I won't say the airline. I've been on a phone call with at least 2 airlines that fly here,
Yeah.
3 airlines that fly here, and I've been waiting for hours. One day, I was calling an airline.
Attest to that.
Let me just say it was a Canadian airline, and I was waiting to speak to somebody, and I got so fed up in the end. I just put the phone on speaker.
Yeah.
I went to bed, and the next morning I woke up
And you were
and
still
I
on
was
hold.
still on hold. With BermudAir, you can call us, you can leave a message, you
Yeah.
can send us an email, you can go on and DM us on Facebook. Somebody will come back to you. Just give us a couple of minutes, but give us a few minutes. But the team is, I couldn't be prouder of them. They work relentlessly through the night to make things as smooth as possible.
And I think people do need to understand. I think we're so used to dealing with those larger airlines, and we've all had those experiences where you've been on hold for 2 hours and then you get disconnected. Oh my
Yes.
God, you're just like, kill me now. What? So the fact that you are a small team, the fact that you are calling people and they are answering your call, it might take a little while because you have a small team, but you're going to speak to a person who, like
Absolutely.
you said, is here. Those things matter. And I think people do appreciate that. And the feedback that I've heard has all been positive. So
Awesome.
you're doing a good job, Adam.
The team tries really, really hard. They're all committed. I can only say fantastic things about the team. They're all super committed. They all want to be the best that they can be, and so I'm really proud of them.
Well, I can't wait to take my flight.
Please
It's coming.
do. Please do.
I'm gonna make it happen. I promise. Is there anything that you'd like to let us know, or to look forward to, or to tell us to check out on the website, or anything like that?
I just watch this space over the course of the next week, 10 days,
Okay.
and I think we're going to have some decent announcements to share with people. I think again. We're looking forward to our third and fourth aircraft over the next few months, and we're looking forward to providing more connectivity to the U.S. and Canada, and to bring more people here. So I think again, it's a symbiotic relationship. The more that people fly with us, the more that we can expand our own wings. And we can help the island and bring more people here and give people the opportunities to go shopping or to visit your friends and
Yes.
family or do whatever else you want to do.
Love that. Well, thank you so much, Adam.
Pleasure.
I've enjoyed this conversation. I gotta
Likewise.
go check on my ticket so I can.
Absolutely.
Look, my husband's gonna be like, somewhere again? Yes, again. But no, I really do appreciate the conversation. Thank you for joining us here on Mind Your Business. And remember, if you don't mind your business, who will?
That's right.
Thanks for tuning in to Mind Your Business with me, your host, Jamillah Lodge. Tune in next week, Thursday at 4 p.m. because if you don't mind your business, who will? Mind Your Business is brought to you by BEDC. Bermuda Business starts here.